Have you purchased your copy of my new book, The Referable Client Experience? If you haven't, grab your copy today. You can grab print, e-reader, or the audiobook wherever you prefer to buy books. You can also dip your toe in and download a free chapter at referrableclientexperience.com. Okay, today on the podcast, I asked my buddy Mike Kim to join me to talk shop, specifically author shop. Just a conversation between two authors about what it looks like to write and publish a book in 2025. And when I was thinking about who would I want to come on the podcast and have this conversation with me, I instantly thought of Mike because he knows me well. So I wouldn't have to tell him what questions to ask me. He would just know. He'd be like, oh, yeah, okay. And he's an author himself. So it's not like him just interviewing me. It's us interviewing and talking to each other. It's not even like question, answer. It's more like conversation. That was what I was ultimately after. Is like, let's just have a conversation. And we definitely get to that place, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted this conversation to be. So again, this is kind of like the final episode in our book series. Like we started back in October talking about the book and it's live. I had a conversation actually with my publisher. Then I tackled the 3 parts of the book over a couple of episodes. And I'm wrapping up with just a conversation between two authors talking shop about what it's like to write a book, publish a book, have a book out there in the world, have multiple books out there in the world in the year of 2025. So we talk about all the things you need to know about him and how we know each other and everything when we jump into the interview. So we'll go ahead now and jump into the interview. But I just want you to know that if you're thinking of writing a book, this is another episode you're probably going to want to listen to. And even if you're not sure if that's something that you're interested in, I think just listening to us talk about what's changed, how we handled writing, AI. I mean, of course, we talked about AI. Can you go 5 seconds today in business without talking about AI? I can't even go 5 minutes in my house without talking to my kids about not using AI when they're trying to write. So we talk about it all. So let's get right to the interview. Let's dive in. Mike, I am so glad that you joined me today for this chat. It has been a hot minute since the last time I have seen you. So I'm glad that
Yes.
we're reconnecting. And just as I said in the intro, but for the listeners, I just wanted to have Mike on because obviously we know each other. I have been in his mastermind for a couple of years and we're both authors. And I just think, with the publishing of my second book, it kind of brings up conversations and discussions and questions from people. And I had a conversation on the podcast a couple episodes back with my publisher from Page 2. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have somebody on who knows me? We can have a conversation. It may be more like he's interviewing me, but the purpose is for it to be a conversation, for us just to talk about being authors and that process and that journey and just anything we really want to share that we think is valuable.
Well, authors have a special bond, namely trauma, from writing and launching their book, if they're trying to do a good job of it, of course. And I know you do. I certainly always try to put my best foot forward when working on books. And it's one of those things that just never, it gets easier, but the weight always feels like the same. You get better at it, you find your own voice. So I've written one on my own and then 2 co-writes, but I've done most of the lion's share of the writing on those co-writes. My co-authors were cool with that. And I've ghostwritten one completely and then a developmental edit on the other one. So you've now written 2 solo books.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, I mean, you just sat butt in seat and were just writing. Was there anything different this second time around? Did you find it got easier? Did you find your process different? Anything along those lines?
Yeah. So for me, I think, the first book was published. I'm kind of embarrassed to say it. I mean, I talk about it, but the truth is the first book was published in 2018 and here it is 2025. And I finally got the second book out, of which I started on this one in at least outline form in 2019, but in seat early 2020, like right before COVID hit. And then just use COVID as an excuse way longer than COVID should have been an excuse to just not get back to it. And then finally, I was like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever. This is going to hang over me forever. And 2024 signed my publishing deal for the second book. It was like April of 2024. I was done with it earlier this summer. Then we did the audio recording, of course, and now we have our launch date in October. So for me, it was actually more mental than it was anything else. The first book is good. Now that I have the second book, I'm like, oh, we are going to go improve the first book because I feel like a better writer. And that's one thing I wanted from the publishing company that I use. Like I had 4 editors this
Mm.
time that I had to deal with. Last time it was 1 editor. And so everything about it is different. And so, but for me, the mental piece was, even though I thought my first book was great, probably until like my second book came around, but my first book also won a bunch of awards. It won like 3 awards. And so in my head, I was like, am I capable of doing another book that is as good as that one? And that's only like rating the book on those couple of awards. But 8 years later, I still get royalty checks. Like my first book still sells, people still buy it. So it's like a book that stood the test of time. I mean, I'm no Stephen King, I'm no Daniel Pink. Like, I'm not selling like that. But like, for me, it was, I took forever because I was like, am I capable? Like, will it be as good? Will people like it? Will people like me? Kind of that whole, that whole thing we do in our heads that we know we shouldn't be doing.
That's, I mean, that does not surprise me. I think that that second project is always really intimidating because you do the first one and the first one does well and you're happy with it. But you mentioned all this time that had passed. Of course, you're going to become a better writer. You're going to become a better communicator. You're going to become a better thinker. I always say that like books really write the author. Everyone thinks that they're writing a book on their expertise. It turns out the book is rewriting them, and it sort of clarifies your thinking. It sharpens your skills. You see all the warts and all on your first book. I do. I'm surprised you want to redo the first one. I've thought about redoing my first one, and I'm like, nah, just move forward. Tell me a little bit about why you're rewriting the first one.
Yeah.
Because
So,
yeah,
well, I've read your first book. It's really, really good. I don't think you need a rewrite. I think that it stands the test of time for you. But for me, it's more about when I wrote the second book, and as my body of work developed in what I teach my clients, and that has been, I've been in business now 12 years. And I would say that, the strategy, the referral strategy that the first book is based on has been my signature foundational strategy from day one. It's the first thing I taught. It's the first thing I figured out for myself. Of course, the first book would be written on that, but it wasn't written in a way like this is one of 20 other strategies. And
hmm,
so, as my body of work is developed, I realized some of the positioning in that book doesn't set it up the way that I think we set up things in the second book with this second foundational strategy. And there are 3 foundational strategies. And in my world, I would be happy if those were just the 3 books and I just stopped and I didn't do it again. Maybe there's a fourth one that's like an all-encompassing umbrella book. But really it's more about the positioning. It's more about it's 8 years later and the strategy hasn't changed. But I've now been doing it for 8 more years with clients and I have much better stories to tell. We have this one bar chart that I show to folks when they're doing webinars and things with me, and it's a client that like joined me in like 2016, and there's a bar chart for every year of her referral growth, and it's just done this, and I'm like, that should be in the book. This has kind of like stood the test of time. But there's also a positioning of that strategy in that book and how I've positioned it that I just want to add some more to it. So that's the thought. The negative is that you do a second book, you have to have a second Amazon listing, and you kind of like lose all the reviews and all the
yeah.
things from the first book. And, it's like a whole big process of like taking your book back and taking your rights back, taking your book back and like redoing it. Anyways, it's not a 2025 project. Clearly, it's a 2026 project. It's kind of the game plan right now. And I've had some strategy calls with my current publisher about like, what would that look like? And do I want to do this? And is it the right thing to do? And they're much more like, whatever you want, we'll do it with you if you want to, but you got to figure if it's the right thing for you to do. So as of right now, it's the game plan. But Mike, it's like sitting down and doing another freaking book. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that. I think there's been a lot of temptation for me to do that because, like, since I wrote my book came out in 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on personal branding, and personal branding as a topic has gone through the roof in the 4 years since. Oh, I can update it for some new things, and I always see like what I wish I would rewrite.
Mm.
But I'm also sort of like heading in a different direction. I don't know what that is yet, but I just know I want to like kind of just like leave it where it is
Yeah.
and move forward. But I get what you're saying about like all these different experiences that you're accounting in the book. I always tell people that you got to earn the right to speak into the lives of other people. And the way you do that, you stress test your ideas,
Yeah.
right? And you've clearly done that with your clients. Did you try to make any intentional shifts in the second book, like compared to the first one, where you might put more of your personal stories in it, more client stories? Were there any shifts around that side?
Yeah. So I think there's probably, if I really think about it, there's probably more than just a couple of things that we probably did differently. I noticed with the second book, it was much heavier on stories. I didn't start every chapter with a story, but I realized, wow, the books I enjoy reading, chapters start with stories. Sometimes my own, sometimes my clients, and sometimes other stories. And so that's definitely a part of it. As I've gotten better, I think, at like writing stories and realizing, oh, that story connects here. I forgot about that. You know what I mean? When they're like, hey, you need another story, you're like, how many more stories? Like I'm all out, and they're like, no, you're not. You're just not thinking of them.
Right.
And so that's different. I think, one of the things that it's not different about this book, but one of the things I feel like I got confident in is that I feel like people pick up my books and they're like, just tell me what I need to say. It's like flipping to the end and they're just like, just tell me what I need to say. Tell me what I need to do. I'll go off and do it. And that's reducing my knowledge and my body of work to like tiny little pieces and shreds. It isn't
Hmm.
actually what works and what I teach. There's more to it. And so this book, like I was really clear that the first two parts, this book has three parts. The first two parts were going to be about being referable and what that means and what that looks like and what are best practices and pitfalls to avoid and things like that. And then the third part would be about the referral piece, and that I was totally fine with that balance. And it's out of balance, right? But I was totally fine with that balance because I was like, you don't need to worry about how you're going to get referrals until you're actually referable. But I feel like that hasn't changed in 12 years. There's this constant like, can I just get the shortcut? Can I just get the easy button? Can I just get the one thing? And I'm like, that's not who I am. Like I don't work with business owners who are looking for the easy button. Like that's not what I do. And I was nervous about it with the first book. This book, I was like, oh hell yeah, this is exactly how it's going to roll. And I'm
Hmm.
totally fine with that. So I think that
Yeah.
was probably something also. I was much more confident in what I was
Hmm.
putting into the book.
Yeah. I've written a couple books like co-written, but again, I did the lion's share. And I feel like now it's a new normal and I'm probably always going to be writing something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I changed my marketing strategy overall. Well, it's not even a marketing strategy because I don't know where I'm going. But I've always felt like when I'm boxed into a corner or where I feel like I've boxed myself into a corner, the only way to get out of it, you have to punch your way out of the corner. Like I use a lot of boxing analogies for some reason, or fighting analogies. And so I have just over the last month and a half of us recording this, I started publishing a weekly newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
and these have been somewhere between like 1,500 to 2,500 words a piece, and I'm writing them week to week. And so I actually feel like I'm writing a new book right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what I am writing about, but it's like it's all the stories that I have not really told before, and it's weird how quickly they come to my mind. Was it like that for you when you were writing the second one? Like you were saying a lot more stories, but your publisher's still asking you for more. Did it flow easier for you?
Um, I think it did. So on the wall that you can't see in my office, I have sticky notes up on the wall, and it's the names of all my clients, and they're color coded by the type of program that they're in.
Uh-huh.
Like I am some like old school analog sometimes. So I looked at that a lot, and I'd be like, oh, I remember when. So looking at my clients' names either helped me think about previous clients that I had that I was like, oh yeah, I remember when. And that helped. But you remember, I mean, I started writing this book in 2019. So some of those stories still exist. They just had to be updated. Like there's a story I tell about a conversation I had with a real estate agent. And I interviewed him for the podcast, of which it didn't air because we went and like, we just had other things going on. It's just so bad for Brian, but like, I should probably like have him back on. But we went in and like pulled the transcript. We're like, yep, here's the story. Like I remember it like it was yesterday. And so that's like one of the opening stories of the chapter. When I was telling client stories, I'd be like looking up, there's a story I tell in the book about Jackie, who's a architecture out in San Francisco. And I remember looking at that board one day and being like, oh, I remember she said something about like, this is when it clicked for me when I saw this piece that I taught her how to do that I teach in this strategy. I'm like, oh, we're going to tell that story. So in some cases, it was just like looking and remembering. Other times, I just had to sit. And particularly the personal story. So the interjection opens with the story when I went to Europe the first time and how I, like, spoiler alert for anybody who's going to go read the book. The opening story in the introduction is I missed my flight coming back from London. But that led me, like, that story came to me when we needed a story to set
Mm.
up how business owners ask sometimes the right questions, but at the wrong time. And it just came to me. Like I sometimes I just think that writing language piece is like a little bit of my superpower. And that story came to me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a perfect example of that. I could definitely use that. So sometimes I was like trying to make it happen by like looking at my clients' names and be like, what stories do I remember? But I've noticed if there is a third book, I'm already starting. Like I have conversations now, I'm like, oh, that's going in the book. Like I
Mm.
find myself doing that more now for the next book.
What does writing or having two books now mean to you? Like, has that deepened sort of just like your look at life? I know they're business books and they're books for your business, but you still wrote them. You're still the same person. You know, this is a business side of your life that you're sharing through these books. But when you look back on it, do you get a sense of fulfillment? Do you feel like, okay, I left a mark on this world? Or is it more just like this was a business decision? Or is it somewhere in between? I'm always curious how authors feel after they get, especially multiple books out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably know the answer to this because you know me. I'm way too practical for it, to put that kind of time and energy in it for it not to have been a business decision. I can write. God was like, here you go, Stacey. You're going to know how to write. You're going to probably stink at math your whole life, but you're going to be really good with writing for the most part. I'm not the best, right? But so for me, sitting down and writing, I don't love it. But when I get into the flow of it, I do love it. But it's like the getting started.
Mm.
So for me to sit down and be like, we're going to do this again, it was, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I noticed that 8 years later, you preach and teach this to your people. I know you've got people in your mastermind that you're like, write a book, people, and you can just take this little clip, Mike, and go play it for them when they tell you that they can't. But I realized 8 years later, my number one lead magnet is still to this day on a monthly basis, not every month, but the majority of every month, every year, is people downloading my book resources. That's part of that special reader link for people who just buy the book. And I was like, am I an idiot? Like, how did I miss that this was still the thing that people get attracted to? And then, I like to look at the data in the business. So then I started paying attention, like, okay, so I know where people are coming from when they come to me, particularly if they're referred to me. Obviously, I practice what I preach. I know like who they're referred by and at what level of program they'll work with me on. But I've got a lot of other people that are in my world that just stumbled across the book. Someone told them about the book. That's impossible to track. It's really hard to track. But I noticed like those people are the ones who are getting the free resources. And then eventually some of them will become clients too. They may not be the direct referral that I can close usually easier, but they are a fundamental part of my business. And I was like, oh my gosh, here I am, like, do a quiz, right? Do a calculator. Let's do this resource for this podcast episode. I was like drowning in content. And I have so many assets, it's ridiculous. Like I had somebody like look in one of my folders one time and they're like, are these all things you used? Like these are all freebies. Those are all the resource, all the PDFs I used to give away and still give away in some cases. And so I just realized I was like, let's go back to what people seem to want from me. It may not be what they want from others, but it is what they like just click in with me on. Is they read the book, they're like, let me get these resources. Then, of course, they end up on my email list. And then I have an opportunity to welcome them into my world and nurture them for whatever journey they're on with me. If it's just to read my weekly email every week, great. If it's to eventually work with me, awesome, even better, of course. But for me, that was the driver. It was like, oh, this is still working 8 years later. Shame on me for not doing it sooner and putting out a
Mm.
second book.
Mm. That makes sense. Can you share a little bit about your writing process, like what that looks like, if that's changed at all between the first and second? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm one of those people who tells myself things that then becomes the thing I have to live by. So in my mind early on, I made a really big mistake in telling myself, because I have, as you know, Mike, 3 kids, I can't write unless I'm alone and away from everyone. And that is a majority of how I wrote the first book. Like the kids were so much smaller back in 2017, right? I mean, they were like, I mean, let's see, like they were babies. Like 2017, that would have made like Danny would have been 10. That's our nephew. He would have been 10. Jacob would have been 9. And Mackenzie would have been 7. So we're talking like elementary years. So we all know, I just said I don't do great math. Maybe that public math isn't perfect, right? I mean, here it is where they were young. And at that time, and at them at that age, and I worked from home. I eventually would have an office that I would go to when I was part of that writing process, but I still worked a lot from home when I could. I just convinced myself I got to go away. So I took a lot of writing weekends, and I have you've met Norm, my husband. Yeah, I have a very supportive spouse, and he's like, go do whatever. I got this. And so I would go to Asheville, which is close to where I live in Charlotte. I have a favorite bed and breakfast up there, and I would go and I would write. And I'd have like 3 places in that bed and breakfast that I would circulate from: the morning, the afternoon, and the evening shift. And I wouldn't let myself get in a car. I had to walk to my food and my coffee every morning and walk to get food and come back. And I would take a break in the evenings and watch a movie. And then I would try to do more. And I was keeping a word count every day. How many words could I write? How many words did I write? And sometimes I would post it on social media. But I kind of got it in my head that I had to go away to write. And that was how I wrote the first book. Then when I started writing the second book, I'm on a writer's weekend in March of 2020, and COVID's here. And I leave Sunday, and then I realize, oh, COVID's really here. Oh, wait, oh my gosh, my children are home. And I don't know if they're ever going back to school. And I was like, I can't write like this. And because I wasn't going anywhere. And then I just didn't. And then the kids got older. And then, whatever, all the things, right? But so, and Norm would be like, are you going on a writer's weekend at all this year? Are you going to do anything? And then I had to sit down a couple of times to write. And I'm one of those people that I like to sit and I will write for 8 hours with food breaks, of course, and like walking around breaks. But I will just like get in and then go deep. That whole like get up an hour early every morning never worked for me for whatever reason. I can't stick with it, or maybe that's actually just isn't how the schedule works for me. But I was sitting on 8 chapters.
Hmm.
Like it's completely reworked now, so those chapters don't exactly exist with the finished book. But when I submitted my manuscript, I finally got to the point I was like, just submit the manuscript because they're going to give me a deadline, and I'm going to work best when they just tell me what I have to do. And that's what we did.
That's interesting. That sounds like torture to me. Like everyone's different.
Yes.
Everyone's different. The getting up early sounds like torture. For me, the way that I handle all creative projects is like it is consistently on my mind all the time until it's over. And um I more steal time. That's how I chip away at it. I
What do you mean
can't
by that?
sit. If I'm in an Uber for half an hour, I'll literally work on a chapter on my phone. Earlier this year, my dad died. I was in Korea. He was still alive then, but we were pretty sure he was going to pass. And I'm like, well, I got to finish this book. And I'm not at the hospital the entire time. I'm getting on the subway in Seoul to go to the hospital. I'm like, all right, let me chip away at this. This is going to be an hour and a half on the train round trip. What am I going to do? Stare outside? Like, this is on my mind, and this is probably a good way for me to disassociate for everything that's going on.
Right.
And I just steal a lot of time. Um, AI has helped a lot where I will walk around and talk to it because I just have rambling thoughts, and I'm not good at documenting things. So I'll just say like, all right, well, what did I write in this chat here? I've probably sent in like 5 voice texts, and it'll spit it back out to me. And so I treat it like an intern that never sleeps. I don't use it to write, but I use it to gather all the grunt work in my thoughts. But I'm always stealing time. And I actually don't work on books during my regular work hours. That's very rare that I do that.
Yeah.
So it's probably why I'm single, and will be for the rest of my life.
No, you won't.
Nobody would put up with this because I'm just like, all right, I put in a full work day. Well, nothing on TV tonight. Might as well chip away at this. So
Yeah.
it's interesting just how everybody does it differently. I would never wake up an hour early to work on
Oh,
a book. That sounds like torture.
torture.
But
And to do it like every day, like just write for an hour. I'm like, no. Like, and I guess I mean I like your idea of like that steal time because I probably do that too. Right. I
yeah,
definitely will have moments that'll come to me and I'll grab a piece of paper, I'll grab a sticky note and I'll write it down. I learned this methodology of how to read books and like outline stuff when I was in grad school. That's like when you read a book and you like underline something like, okay, I'm old school, so I actually like printed copies, but like when you read a book and you highlight something or you underline something, then you go to the front of that book, like the front chapter, like the front page, and you write down all the page numbers and like one or two
mm,
words that describes the point of what you underlined. And so I would do that in terms of like when I would read books. And I found myself with my book doing things where I would have like, I had this binder I just carried around. God, I am so old school as I say these things out loud. They're kind of embarrassing. But like I would have a binder and it would have like a section for every chapter with just blank pieces of paper in it. And so I'm not like you. I probably would be like, the binder's there. I'm in this Uber. I could do it, but I'm just going to FaceTime my kid or whatever. But that's how I would just write notes and like just kind of keep everything together. And when I found research that I wanted, I would print it out and put it in that binder. And that's how the binder grew the outline. And that's how the writing kind of flowed.
when people ask me what's the best way to write a book, my response is yes.
So true.
Whatever gets it done. Like
Yes.
you can study everyone else's methods all you want, all their tools. I've written every book on Google Docs. The most sterile, awful looking, most uninspiring user interface you could ever find.
Oh, I use
And
Word. So it's pretty bad too.
Word's pretty bad too. I'm a Mac guy, so I don't have Word on my phone.
Right.
So I do a lot of it on my phone.
Yeah.
I do a lot on my phone, and Google Docs syncs immediately. It's the most
Right.
reliable thing, and so I just go in there. Um,
I can't type like that. Like I can type like text messages but I don't think I could like I don't know. Like I wonder if I could write full sentences, full paragraphs, full sections on my phone.
well, my writing style is short,
Yeah,
so
true.
I feel like if I look at it on my phone, it's too long. I'm like, oh, put a paragraph break there. Put a
Right.
edit these words. So I'm always cutting. One of the other things that I do now is because I don't want to read what I write anymore because been staring at the screen. I'm getting old, and I don't want to look at screens anymore.
Right.
And I have a separate Google Doc called Voice Reader Doc. That's just what I've called it. It's no special features.
Okay.
And I've attached a plugin to my Google Chrome, and it's called what's it called? Voice Outs. It's a free
Hmm.
plugin, and it reads it in that horrible robotic Siri voice,
Yes.
and it reads the whole doc while I'm walking around the kitchen or whatever. And the reason I have a separate doc for it is that the stupid plugin doesn't read from the top of the page that I want. It always reads from the document, the whole document. So I just said, all right, I'm going to, and that thing always
Oh.
changed. That voice reader doc always changes because it's whatever I'm working on at the time.
Oh, so it's not like you're trying to have it read the whole manuscript to you every single time. It's like,
No, it's
this is
just
the
section by
section I've
section.
written. Read this to
Yeah.
me.
Or a
Oh, that's
chapter.
clever. Yeah.
And I'll be like, okay, I am bored to death of listening to this stupid thing. So my writing probably is boring. And if I hear something I want to change, I don't stop it. I write it on a whiteboard on my fridge or on the wall
Yeah.
while I'm listening to it. And I've literally done that in my car. Now, before y'all freak out, I have a self-driving car. I have a Tesla.
You do?
So, yeah,
I mean, I know
I
you
got
had
it
a Tesla. I
before.
didn't know it was self-driving.
Yeah, it's self-driving. I got I'm definitely paying for that feature. That's why I got it. It's before Elon went crazy, so don't everybody hate on me. But it's great for me. And I will literally talk about stealing time. I'm like, all right, I got to go down to meet up with a friend or whatever, and the roads are relatively safe. And I literally turn on the self drive and hit that stupid play button on the voice reader, and I listen to it with my laptop in shotgun because I don't have it tethered to my car. And I'm just listening. That's how I edit my work now.
I feel like I'm gonna need to see a video of this one day. Like
Yeah.
you not driving, but listening to yourself reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
It's, I just think that I've written enough now
yeah.
that I just, I can't sit there and write because it
Yeah.
reminds me of the weight of all those other projects. So I'm finding that I always have to continually trick myself from a
Mhm.
creative standpoint. This is probably going to last me like a year. And in a year, I'll probably need to figure out something else. But it's just whatever works, you know?
That's the thing about tricking ourselves. We get smart to it. So we have to keep finding something else to trick ourselves.
Yeah.
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 I've tried it
It's
all.
weird.
I've tried
Yeah.
like the keeping up with the page count and then posting it on social media or like mailing it to friends. Like, okay, this is what I wrote today. Hold me accountable. I'm trying to get to here. And like that now, like one time I did it with Norm and I was like, okay, I'm at 10,000 words. I'm trying to get to 15. Like just check in with me tonight and ask me how I did. And he checked in with me and I just ignored him. I was like, that doesn't work anymore. I don't care. Like obviously I went back later and I was like, hi, I love you, but I just don't care. Like this isn't working anymore to make me write. But you're right. Sometimes it's just looking for that. For me, hands down, it's always going to be a deadline. Like
Hmm.
that's the one thing you can't, and not deadlines to myself because I can blow past those pretty easy. Not always, but deadlines to somebody else. That's always going to
Hmm.
be the hook
Yeah.
for me.
I don't do well with any deadlines. I'm like, it's going to be good. It's just going to take how long it takes.
The time it
And it's
takes.
going to be good. And I've told all my co-authors, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to punt on this like 3 or 4 times. It'll make you upset, but it's going to be good. And that's how I look at it. And then, do you have like a word count you try to hit for your chapters? Because yours are business books.
Yeah.
Do you have like a max that you go over, a minimum you stay above?
So no, it's more like, can I just get to 2,500? Can I just get to 2,500?
Oh,
Like
okay.
that's like a baby number for me, but it's like a chapter can't be done unless it's over that number. But usually it is over that number. Like for whatever reason, chapter 2 in this book is long. Like it is just a really long chapter. And I kept saying to all my editors, I think we need to split it apart. And they're like, no, no, no. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's fine that it's that long of a chapter.
Hmm.
But yeah, because my books are going to come in north of 30,000 words, but south of 40,000. Like
Hmm.
that is my
Okay.
sweet spot. I like to pride myself on a step by step. Like that's how I teach my clients. That's how I write. That's how I think, like step by step, like that linear kind of thinking. And for me, it's like if I'm reading the book and I'm like, I've said this 4 times, if you don't have it by now, I cannot repeat myself again. I got to move on. But I will repeat it a couple of times to make sure you're getting it, because I know I'm so close to it. But so for me, like at first, the thinness of my first book, I was like, that's not very impressive. Like put that up next to a Dan Pink or a Simon Sinek, I'm gonna feel like a baby. And then I realized that's kind of my superpower because people pick up my books and they say, I know I can finish it. Like I know
Hmm.
I'll get through it. And so, yeah, I don't hit word counts per chapter, but I don't try to have a chapter under 2,500. Most of them are over that. But I'm like, if the book comes in somewhere over 30,000 to 40,000 words, I'm like, I'm good. Like it's 140, 160 pages, whatever it is. Like I'm good. That's the right, as long as I say what I need to say.
Yeah. I'm somewhere between 3,000 to 3,800.
Okay.
If it gets to four, I'm like, this is way too long. I
Right.
don't mind going under. It usually ends up around there. If it goes over 4,000, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look at this. Like maybe
Yeah.
look this up or something. Um, I really like Morgan Housel's style. I don't know if you've read any of his
Oh
books, The
yeah.
Psychology
Mm-hmm.
of Money. I like how they're just short and snappy. He's a
Yeah.
great writer. And then I'm reading right now Anti Fragile by Nassim Taleb, and the book's like this thick.
Yeah.
And the
That's
chapters
thick.
are so long, but he's like a risk management theorist, some brilliant turned philosopher. He's brilliant. And it's just smart enough for me to feel smart that I can understand it, but short enough that I don't feel like I'm an idiot. And then I'm like studying a lot more people's writing styles. I've always been into that, but I think with the advent of AI, like yes, it can mimic a lot of these things, but like it's always interesting how creative people get with how they write.
Mm.
And I think that is something that as authors, we have to pay attention to. Like we can have a style, but you got to be able to mix it up once in a while. There's this very, very popular memoir. It's really sad that the gal just passed away. I don't know why, but she was like in her mid 30s,
Oh,
and it
it's
was
fun.
something like I Dream of Tteokbokki, which is a Korean like rice cake food. And all she did was write conversations with her therapist in her memoir.
Okay.
And I had never heard of the book. I was walking through Barnes and Noble, and obviously I grabbed it because the name of the book was like a Korean food, and I was like,
Right.
"What?" And I like opened it, and I've never read the book. I've skimmed like the first chapter, and I was gripped by the style. I bought it simply because of the style,
Oh, nice.
and I'm like, "Oh, this will be interesting to talk about, like how to frame conversations in a book. This is really interesting." And I think that those are, I always try to mix it up. I noticed I'm playing around with a lot of that stuff more now.
That is actually though one of your superpowers. Like your ability to kind of like go like 30,000 foot and kind of like look at things and like dissect them and like pull them apart and be like to be honest, I read books and I'm like, oh, I like that style. Like the type of book style I like that I cannot write, but I really like is like the business fable. Like the telling of the story of
Mm,
the one business owner who learned all the lessons through all the chapters because of the book. That's really cool. I can't do that. The people who do that I think are really cool. But like I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I don't study it. I think though as one of your superpowers, you're like, oh, this is like you're always like I like to think I have a growth mindset, but like Mike, you have like a huge growth mindset. You're like not afraid to pick things apart and shift in different directions and test things out and try things out. And I mean, I'm not surprised that you picked up a book and bought it because of it could inform how you write dialogue in a book down the road. Like that is
well,
so you.
I take that as a compliment, but it's torture. Sometimes I'm just sort of like, dude, shut up there, whatever's in here, shut up. Last question, AI. Where do you sit on using that? Have you used it at all? Philosophically, do you think it's just a cop out? Like, I'm just interested to hear how people are using this technology. It's a weird tech for sure. But any thoughts on that?
So for AI,
Yeah.
how, so I don't use it. I may be one of the last remaining business owners of today that doesn't use it at all.
Hmm.
Personally, like don't have accounts, don't have a chat GPT learning to write like Stacey. I had to go ask my contractor. So I have a couple of obviously like I got a few folks in my business. I'm a business of one, but I only survive because I have an army of contractors. So I had to go to like my podcast editor and I had to go to my virtual assistant. I'm like, hey, I'm out here saying I don't use AI in my business, but are you guys using AI when you're doing stuff on my things? So clearly, I believe AI is being used for like the podcast, like
Right.
show note
Show
pages or
notes or
whatever,
whatever. Right.
just to like, yeah. I think Chris is using it from that perspective. And Kathy, my VA, was like, she's like, I only use it when I need it to tell me how to say something differently. Like this headline I've said 14 times the same way,
Hmm.
and I want to send you something different. And I was like, okay. So I don't use it. I'm not ever going to say never, but to me, AI feels, I know there's so much smarter people that can probably look at this from a philosophical perspective, but for me, AI feels a little bit like Clubhouse. I feel like everyone's getting on the bandwagon. It obviously has way more staying power than Clubhouse does. But I think, like with most things, that it gets overused and abused and it turns people off and everybody runs away. And now they're like, where's the authenticity? And I'm like, right here. I've been here all along. Like right here, just hanging out. I know there's things I could do, I could use AI for that would probably make my life easier. And I'm not arguing against it in the back end. You're not going to see it right. You're not going to see it used or be written in any of my weekly emails, any of my training programs, any of the books that I write as of this moment in time. I just like it's not like I tested it once with this book. I like had it like start a chapter and I was like, this is such junk. I like just scrapped it. I was like, forget it, moving on. Like this was terrible. Like Ryan made me do it. I'm like, this was awful, terrible idea. So that's like, I'm not like death to AI or anything like that. But I do think that when people pick up this book and they read it, if they've been in my world, they know it's me. I have a
Yeah.
very distinct way that I write. I actually have to edit out all the uses of the terms actually, because apparently I say that word a lot when I'm writing. I say write a lot when I'm speaking. I've noticed on the podcast, but I say actually a lot when I'm writing. And so I think you pick it up and you're like, this is Stacey. Like, this sounds like Stacey. And I'm not
Mm,
saying AI can't get there. I just don't need it to. Like, I think, there are some people who use AI because writing, they really struggle with it. And I'm like, then use it. I wish they'd come out with AI for math, like, or accounting or whatever. I mean, that'd be amazing. Maybe that already exists. I don't know. I outsource all that stuff. I stink at. But like, I just think that that's not something I need it for. And the more and more I hear about people talk about AI, the more I'm more comfortable with my decision not to get on the bandwagon and not
mm,
to use it. I feel confident that my stuff is more protected because it's not in AI, though I know people who literally tell me, "Oh yeah, I took that thing from your book and I put it into AI and I said, "Tell me how Stacey would say this." And I was like, "You do realize you just like stole my stuff." And then told I was like, "That's like my life's work. Like, can you not go put it in AI? Like that's not yours to go put it. You can't stop anybody, right?" So, I mean, that's kind of like that's a long answer because I get that people use it. That's awesome. I probably could save time in my business, but I did a huge shrinking of my business in 2021. So I don't work that much as it is, unless I'm in a book launch or like
mm.
there's something big going on. So I didn't feel like I'm like, I don't need to save all these hours. I'm not working 80. I'm not even working 40. Some weeks I'm like not even working 20. So I don't know. For me, I don't use it. I like the fact that someone picks up anything of mine. They're like, this is true, Stacey. That's my game plan for it to stay like that. I could probably be missing out on things, but at the same time, I also know that when people they know it's me, and I like that. I like the people in my world knowing I've got confidence. So this is Stacey.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel the same way. I use it in some of the ways that I've shared just
Mm-hmm.
now. But I actually, if it gives me something, I literally rewrite it. I rewrite everything. It
Yeah.
actually made me have to edit more. Sometimes, well, often I'm just like it's better. I'm better off writing myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also one of the reasons that I was really rushing to get some more books out, because I do think that the technology is going to dilute how people perceive books. I
Oh,
do think
agreed.
that's coming.
Yeah.
Like the way that people dilute the importance of photography or cameras because we all have them on our iPhones. It doesn't mean that photographers are out of work. The best of the best still get great work.
Right.
But I just don't want anyone to ever be able to say, oh, like you wrote all your books using AI. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I came up with 3 of them and all of them were bestsellers before ChatGPT came out,
Existed.
you know,
Yeah.
or like I started working on them before. So that's interesting. I actually agree with you. I think there are going to be a lot of people who are pushing back against AI. I would be happy if it stopped right where it is right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no more. I don't want Skynet or for us all
But
to get killed by robots.
it
But
won't.
we as a species are kind of stupid sometimes, and
Very.
we will push until we push too far. So who knows where it's all going to go? But
Yeah.
no. Well, congrats on the book. That I understand how much work it is, and I guess we'll
Well,
be getting an updated version of yours. So your
yeah,
first one.
well, a bit, I don't know. I may have just talked myself out of it. Let's be honest. But well, okay. So you've talked about the books that you've shared or whatever, and you like help people with this process. Like it's not your day job. You're not like go out there seeking clients, right? To like let me help ghostwrite your book or whatever. Not like that. But like I just know like this is something like whether it's with the mastermind or if you're like just helping people explore the idea, you're a big believer and proponent of people writing books. If it's something they can do, they should do. So, I mean, definitely, like, I want you to be able to share too, like, any thoughts that you have or anything that you're working on that could help people.
I think, well, okay, I'll say it this way. I literally told everybody in my mastermind group who hasn't written a book yet that you have until 2026 to publish one, or else I'm just going to kick you out of the mastermind.
Oh, I heard that. I love it.
Not to be a jerk, but I'm like,
Right.
I've written 3 of them. I want to hang out with other authors so that we can talk about other things. And it's because I believe every one of them has a book in them. Like that's the fundamental belief. If they didn't, I wouldn't say that, or they probably wouldn't be there anyway. But I know what it can do, not just for their business, but for who they are as a person. I always say that
Yeah.
you can't unbecome the person who wrote your book. And typically, I like to hang out with people who think carefully and read and study and are working on themselves. And we need more books from those kind of people,
Yeah.
not the people who are just churning crap out using AI.
Right.
So my point is like, it's not that you should just write a book for your business and it's a good personal development tool and you're going to grow a lot from it. All that's true, but we need better books. The world doesn't need more books. It needs better books. It needs better ideas. And if AI and ChatGPT and whatever can condense a bunch of Google articles into some really stale readouts, where's the art? Where's the poetry? Where's the wisdom? Where's the meaning? Where's the fulfillment? Where are the stories?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't know me well enough to conjure up these stories where like it doesn't know, thank God, that you missed your flight in London, because that would be really creepy if it did. Like I
Yeah.
don't have AI
At
in my
21 years
email.
old. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like we don't want that. So yeah, I mean, I push people pretty hard on that if I know that it's in them, and I know that tend to push myself hard, but I still need people to push me,
Yeah.
and especially on that first one. And yeah, I'm a really big believer in that. Like, there's something I've been talking about a lot lately called the Lindy effect, and this is taken from a diner in New York City that no longer exists, sadly. But back in like the mid 1900s, which sounds crazy to me to say that, but I'm just talking about the 50s and 60s. You and
Yeah.
I are, I'm like, what, the mid 1900s? But
Oh.
Broadway performers would hang out there at this diner called the Lindy Diner, and after a while, they would start to see that these shows on Broadway, the longer they were around, the longer it was likely they would stay. Like Cats, okay, a
Mm.
lot of those shows, and they would say that show is Lindy. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, so to me, books are Lindy. We've
Yeah.
had them since the dawn of the the next evolution of human society. And here we have AI, but Barnes and Noble locations are up. Book sales are up. Audiobook sales are up.
Yeah.
So despite AI, we as a species want books. We want this. I go to my Barnes and Noble, it is packed. It's jammed. I'm like, where are all these people? And there's young people in there. It
My
gives me
kids
hope.
go.
It gives me hope
Yeah.
for our future.
I mean, in fairness, if you see the Randall children hanging out in Barnes and Nobles, they're not reading books, they're not buying books. They're there to hang out with their friends and do homework, but they're there. It's a
They're there.
start.
They're in that environment,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I'm a big believer in that. I think that if you're an expert of any kind, it's going to do wonders for your business. I always say writing a good book will never be bad for your business, and the keyword is good.
That
Keyword's good.
I will say I have known people who've written books and I know them and I know they're experts at their trade, and then I'll read their book and I'll be like, what were you thinking? You weren't thinking. Like,
Yeah,
why would you put this out there? Like,
yeah, it
it
was a bad
sounds like
book.
you got an AI ghostwriter to write this, or you put a bunch of blog posts together and threw them together without any like through lines and like
Hmm.
thought process and like, thinking about it. Like, so yeah, good
Yeah.
books.
So
That's what's
yeah,
needed.
good
Good
books.
books.
Good books. Stress test them. Work on your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Have people punch your ideas down.
Yeah.
And
Painful but
that's
necessary.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
So
Well, Mike, I so appreciate you hanging out and coming on my
yeah,
podcast to interview me, but I really wanted this to be a dialogue, which it was. So I appreciate that. I'm pretty sure people probably learned more from you. Definitely, they've picked up some tech tricks that they will never get from me because I will not do any of those things. So that is a huge win for my audience to hear, my listeners, to hear that from you. But I know people are going to want to check out. They're going to be like, what are all these books this man has written? So can you share where people can find you?
go to mikekim.com/newsletter. That's what I'm really focused on. To the point, I don't even know if you know this. I don't record a podcast anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
just read my posts.
Yep.
And so those 1,500 to 2,500 word posts, I'm like, oh, this is a 10-minute podcast episode or 15 minutes, which then makes me think, how many years did I drone on saying unnecessary things in a
Forever.
podcast that went 40 minutes,
I know. Me too.
Um, and all my links are on mikekim.com. I'm just trying to get back to the basics of what my strengths are, which is writing, and then
Yeah.
syndicate that content around other channels. So it's made everything easier. I tell you what, it makes social media easier because I have everything written.
Yeah.
I read the article, it takes one take because I wrote it. So I'm not
Yep.
trying to change the words of an AI draft or anything like that. And I think my audience appreciates it. Like they're
Yeah.
like, okay, so, and many of them have told me sometimes I read it and then I go back and listen to it because it's on YouTube or your podcast. And I'm like,
So
great, that's great.
it's funny you say that. I started the newsletter you sent out. I guess it was last week, the one on the economy of meaning,
Yeah,
and then I listened to it. on my drive back. I had to go to High Point Market. Was my book was sponsoring a panel at High Point Market where the interior designers hang out twice a year. So I was up at High Point Market on my way back. I was like, oh, I know I've read this, but let me go listen to Mike read it to me now because I'll probably hear something different. And you do. I mean, I think that's the thing that people don't pay attention to is that actually, I think it's like 64% of all adults are actually like, they are going to learn visually and then audio long before they're going to get to actually like just seeing words on paper. And I
Hmm.
think that's important for people to remember.
Yeah, yeah, it surprised me. And what's one last thing I'll add is that I'm getting feedback from the right kind of people,
Yeah.
like my colleagues, my industry peers, even people who are like ahead of me, and they're like, "Hey, I really like what you're doing here," and I'm more proud to share it because I know it's my best work. Because you and I both share a hatred for social media, like we hate it. And now I'm like, no, this should be on social media. I need to hire somebody to clip this up because this was like that whole Lindy effect that I just shared. Like that needs to be a post in of itself. Like I feel
Yep.
so much better. And when I wake up every Tuesday morning, knowing that the stuff has gone out earlier that morning when I was still waking up, I feel like I've given myself a great gift
Yeah.
of knowing that I put something out into the world and people can find it in whatever frequency or channel they want.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, my work for the week is done. I
It's
don't
a
have to
good
dance on
feeling.
TikTok. Yeah, it's a great feeling. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, do your
Awesome.
best work. Cool. Well,
All right.
I'm glad. Thanks for letting me sit in the chair today and interview you.
Oh,
And
it was fun. It was nice. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think it's just a fun conversation. You know, at some point, people will tire of me talking of the new book. So I figure this is kind of a nice way to still stay subject adjacent, but yet have a totally different conversation about it. So thanks for joining me.
my pleasure. Congrats again.
Thank you. There is nothing better than having friends that you can call upon that will do a podcast episode with you like this. When I was thinking about, I just want to get on and have a conversation like author to author and talk shop, Mike was at the top of my list for somebody that I know could do this. I mean, as we mentioned, as you guys know, he's been a friend of mine for a few years. I know we talked about this at the very beginning, but we've been friends for a few years. I actually met him like in 2016, but we didn't actually become friends until a number of years later in 2022, I think it was, when I actually joined a mastermind that he still runs, but I was a part of for a few years. And of course, as he mentioned, he's published numerous books as a solo author, co author, and ghostwriter. So I hope you enjoyed the time that I spent having a chit chat with my good friend, Mike Kim. His website and access to the transcripts for this episode will be found on the show notes page at stacybrownrandall.com/388. All right. Thanks for making it to the end, my friend. I have a small favor to ask. If you haven't quite yet left a rating, preferably like a 5-star rating for this podcast, if you haven't left a 5-star rating and review and you are enjoying this podcast, it would mean the world to me. Like how many years in I am now? 8 years in, whatever it is, almost 400 episodes. We'll hit that next year. It would mean the world to me if you would take a minute and just leave a 5-star rating and review. And if you've read my new book, The Referable Client Experience, it would also mean the world to me if you could hop over there and leave a rating, 5-star, preferably, rating and written review as well. Okay, thanks. Until next week, take control of your referrals and build a referable business. Bye for now.